Hey guys, Marc Clebanoff here from Indie Film Ins and Outs, and welcome to our first official podcast. Our first episode today features a very close friend of mine and client, Miss MJ Angel in Sydney, Australia. MJ is the CEO of hives.com, which is a global VOD platform. Please welcome Miss MJ Angel, the CEO of hives.com, to our first official podcast. Hello, my dear.
Hi, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Good to see you. How's everything over there?
Well, coming to you live from lockdown in Sydney, Australia.
Yeah,
winning over here, guys.
Yeah, we hear a lot of rumors about what's happening in different parts of the world, but I tell all the people who take my courses and listen in and whatnot, I tell them that I talk to people in every corner of the world on a weekly basis. So you really, by doing film sales, you get a really firsthand, enlightened perspective on what's going on around the world, and it's very different from what's going on in here at home in Los Angeles and otherwise around the country.
Yeah, very different.
It looks like you're hanging in okay, and I assume that you'll be off lockdown very shortly.
Yes, fingers crossed, hopefully.
Good. All right. So MJ and I go back a long ways. Like I said, she is not only a dear friend, but one of my favorite clients. She's the CEO of hives.com, which I do want to specify, although she is based in Sydney, Australia, her company is not specifically an Australian distributor. She is a global distribution platform. So first, MJ, why don't you tell me just a bit about hives.com, about your platform, and kind of how you see that it stands out in the VOD market.
So I've been in this industry, I'm coming up to 28 years of being in the entertainment industry and having worked across,
Pretty good. You started at 7 years old. That's great.
That's why we're friends. So I've been doing this a long time, and about 7 or 8 years ago, when Hiveo became more than just a thought and an idea, at the time, there were kind of two types of distribution platforms available. You had your AVOD, which obviously YouTube was leading, and then you had your SVOD players like your Netflix and your Amazon Primes, etc. And what there really wasn't at the time was more of a hybrid platform where independent filmmakers especially, or independent content creators especially, could have accessibility where their IP was protected, because we know how that sort of works on YouTube, where they could either have their content available for pay-per-view or TVOD or AVOD. So giving sort of distributors and independent filmmakers a little bit of a choice. So we kind of came into the market as more of a hybrid model back then. And it was really because I just had so many friends and colleagues in the industry that were getting screwed.
Yeah.
By networks, if you're a small independent creator, you couldn't get near Netflix at the time. You basically had YouTube or Vimeo as a distribution choice. And call me crazy, but I just thought, what if we actually set up more of an agnostic platform where content creators' rights and licensing and all that was protected, and they had the freedom to kind of market and broadcast their content in a way that suited them. So that was really the crux behind Hiveo all that time ago.
I gotcha. So if a producer has their titles on the platform, they can actually choose whether it's going to be transactional, subscription-based, or ad-based.
Absolutely. And also choose where they want it available. We're available in 190 countries. So if they had sales deals, existing licensing deals in other territories, they could also, catch into other places where they may not have got exposure and be able to control that process.
So that's a good point. And that's kind of how you and I work together. Like, I'll give you all the titles that I've either produced or represent, and I give you literally a spreadsheet that says these titles are available in these countries and they're not available in these other countries. And you're able to actually release them and geo-block and pick and choose where they're going to be exploited.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which is all, you know, you've got the control. And if your licensing deals change down the track, which they have over the time that we've worked together on some titles, it's literally an email, or you can jump in yourself and literally go, that license deal is done, or this is a new license deal. It's no longer available in this territory or this country, or vice versa.
That's great. So talk to me a little bit about, you know, I think people get sometimes a little confused. They hear TVOD, SVOD, AVOD, and, you know, I try to over and over, I try to be very redundant about explaining the difference between them. But of the three main types of VOD, what do you see as the one that's likely to stand out and really set a precedent and be profitable for filmmakers in the future?
Are we talking indie filmmakers, or are we talking like?
But yeah, let's keep it indie. Let's keep it for
Yeah.
the guys and gals like me who go out and produce, you know, lower micro and, you know, mid-level budget films, not the studios.
It's definitely going to be AVOD.
AVOD,
There's
the
no
ad
doubt
bit.
about it. Ad based. So advertising video on demand is the exact kind of, you know, explanation of the acronym that we hear being thrown around all the time. The reason is, and this has become even more, you know, true, I guess, since the pandemic has happened and life has changed for us, and we've seen what the major players like the Warner Brothers, the Paramounts, the HBOs, they're all going out and doing their top tier thing on their own platforms. And so for indie filmmakers, really part of what you need to be looking at is a multi-platform strategy. And when you're dealing with titles that are new titles or independent titles, people in certain countries are still a little bit hesitant to pay for them. Whereas with an AVOD model where you've got advertising based, you've got more chance of making some money.
So how does that work? You being the end game, you being the distributor, the exhibitor. I mean, we talk about distributors all the time, but it's almost like a man behind the curtain. Distributors are very elusive. Now we're actually looking at a distributor. So how does that work from your end in terms of your soliciting or engaging advertisers to get involved with the platform, and then explain how the kind of like views and revenues work?
So I had a very different idea. Obviously, when I started Hiveo, the traditional sort of YouTube model was just digital, chuck ads on, you know, whatever. What I wanted to do with Hiveo was a little bit different because of my marketing background. I'd seen, and I'd worked with a lot of film companies like Sony and Paramount and stuff, where we were doing activations of trying to align the right audiences with the right content or film, etc. And I felt that there was an opportunity to approach advertisers differently. And when I talk about that, it was more about going, here's your core demographic, whatever the you know, advertiser would be. How can we match up your product to the demographic of the films and the content that we have on Hiveo? So part of our business is also the advertising, in that where we're kind of like Tinder for advertisers and content. We like to match them up, because what that means is you're getting better alignment with a brand to the demographic that they really want to connect with. So the ROI tends to be better, the client's happier, and the filmmaker gets more advertising. So it's a very different way to a lot of the big platforms work. It's more of a boutique way, and it's taken us a lot longer to do this, to work out the algorithms, the booking platforms,
But that's good. It sounds like, unlike, you know, most of the AVOD platforms, you're not relying exclusively on algorithms to match up advertisers. And that's good, because if the advertisers feel like that they are paired up with more appropriate demographics and content, then it's going to be more profitable for everybody.
Exactly. And so that's where we've tried to be a little bit different in the market, of really sort of concentrating on that matchmaking process for both the advertisers and the content creators and the filmmakers, to make sure that they both get a better return on investment. And that the end user is also, you know, we've become so savvy as viewers that if I'm on a platform like say if I'm on YouTube and I'm watching something and I get served a nappy ad, like a diaper ad, sorry, that's my Aussie diapers for all of you guys in America. It's like, why am I getting served this? Because I don't have a child. I don't, you know, so we try to be a little more, you know, effective in how we match up our advertising messaging with our content.
Yeah, that's good, because I know, like, I watch Tubi TV. I know a lot of other people do. That's kind of one of the biggest AVOD platforms here in the US, and now it's, you know, owned and operated by Fox, which means they have a huge selection of very big movies. But the commercials that we watch on Tubi are very generic. They're not very targeted. You know, and you just kind of like put the iPad down and don't even pay attention to the ads, you know, and just let them run through.
It's true. And one of the things we're doing, and again, this is sort of since the pandemic, is we've had to sort of really rethink about how we connect with advertisers as a platform on behalf of our you know, filmmakers and content creators. And so we're going into more new territory where we're doing influencer based and very native stuff. So there's a large fast food chain we're working with at the moment in Australia. And what we've done with them, instead of just having ads, we've actually matched some of our influencers with the advertiser to create native content and native ads. So it actually feels really natural. And instead of going, you know, blah, 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 here's an ad, it's like we've done some campaigns around this film is brought to you by X, yeah, and enjoy something from X, you know. So
you match the fast food ads up to the like marijuana movies.
Yeah, pretty much. Like nothing like a hot donut while you're watching a stoner film. Am I allowed to say that?
Absolutely. We don't pull punches.
Okay.
So is that in terms of like how you're kind of redefining how the actual ad-based VOD works? Is that what you see as the most glaring error or hole in how the whole kind of industry is functioning right now?
Look, I mean, obviously digital advertising as it is not going anywhere, but it doesn't mean that platforms can't do it better and can't engage with their advertisers better. And, you know, by us making the effort to engage differently with our advertisers, we know that that in the long term is going to have a much better effect for our you know, our content creators and our filmmakers, because hopefully we're stepping out the middleman. It means we can do very tailored things that are specific to our audience and get a better return on investment. And really that's the end game for us. You know, we want to be able to deliver back as many dollars as we can, yeah, to our filmmakers.
I find it interesting how, I asked the question already kind of knowing the answer that AVOD is definitely starting to stand out as, the driving most lucrative force in VOD. But it's kind of interesting that it's coming full circle back to the way we used to watch TV in the 70s and 80s. That's basically what AVOD is. You're watching it for free. You just have to suffer through commercials, which is fine because you're watching a lot fewer and shorter commercials with, VOD than you ever did on old school TV. But
absolutely
interesting. So
yeah, and look, no, but it's true. We haven't reinvented the wheel. We've essentially taken a medium that has worked tried and true, whether it's been on radio or television traditionally, and it's just literally the medium has changed.
Yeah.
And, we've got to be smarter about how we do it.
Yeah. One of the other things I like about HiveVO is the way you've structured it in terms of having branded channels. You want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah. So one of the other things that when we did start and looking at the competition per se was that everyone's movies were thrown in together. If you had a horror film, you were thrown in with 50 other horror films.
Right. That's how most platforms are.
It's pretty much how all of them are, like, especially the SVOD guys, right? And so I thought, you've got all these sales agents like yourself, mini distributors who have great catalogs, and they have a brand in themselves, and they represent, a whole bunch of different filmmakers and producers and directors. And for me, it kind of made sense to go, instead of heaping everybody in together, what if everyone was actually able to set up their own little branded channel on Hiveo? So it's like their own little either AVOD or SVOD or combination of, because that's how Hiveo works, so that they could actually build on their own brands and, you know, nurture their own stable of content, etc. So that, I guess, is something else that makes us a little bit different too. But since we started and we fast forward through to today, we actually now have both. So we have some small independent filmmakers, they only have one film, so it doesn't really warrant a channel. Sure. Whereas now they can go into what we call one of our hives, where they're with other, you know, and they can start getting their small break through that as well. So we've had to be really agile with the changing of everything that's happened over the last 5 or 6 years. And we've seen, I don't know about you, but I think we've seen more changes in our industry over the last 5 or 6 years than we have in the last 20.
Yeah, agreed. And
you know,
yeah, it's always a moving target for sure. So so I want to switch now kind of from the mechanics of how it works on your end, the distributor end, to kind of what you see happening with the specific filmmaking itself. So you kind of live and breathe independent content. You see real low budget stuff, sort of low budget stuff. You see some higher budget stuff. You see things at every level. So tell me, what is one of the things that you feel like is a pretty common error you see from the filmmaker side in terms of getting placement and getting eyeballs on their movie?
Where do I start?
And feel free to be candid about this, because this is like tough love that everybody, you know, when I was first starting, like I would have loved to hear this type of intel from a distributor when I started making films, because I didn't know.
Yeah, look, pull up a pew, get comfortable, because this one's a bit of a long list.
That's all right. Go for it.
Look, I mean, I'm going to start with the actual, you've made a film and now you're ready to get it out. So I'm going to sort of start with that. And one of the things as a distributor, and I know that you see this as a sales agent all the time as well, is there's a little bit of arrogance sometimes where it's like, I've made a movie and I'm ready and here it is. And the way that some filmmakers approach distributors or sales agents are just completely inappropriate.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I do a whole thing in my courses about the right and the wrong ways to approach sales agents and distributors. And yeah, I mean, there's certain, you know, I get emails literally every day, solicitation emails. And I'd say 1 in 10, I actually take the time to like read through and click on the link, because a sentence in, I know this is like a misfire.
Yeah. So my first thing is know your industry etiquette. Know the appropriate way to approach a distributor or a sales agent. I mean, at the moment, we've got Khan going ahead, like some of us virtual.
I was gonna say I like the choice of hat there, considering Cannes is technically.
I'm channeling, wishing that I was at the French Riviera right now.
Indeed.
And so obviously, you know, as a distributor, as a platform, I get loads and loads of emails from, you know, sales agents and independent filmmakers. And I actually got one this morning and it made me so angry because the arrogance of this individual of, I'm doing a film, it's not finished, I need money, can you please let me know a time where I can discuss this project with you?
I get
First
those
of all,
quite frequently.
Right? Yeah. It's just understanding the etiquette. If you need to raise funds, make sure you're going to people that are actually openly, publicly going, we're looking at funding films. Do not approach sales agents or distributors if you know they don't actually fund projects. Take some time to actually, you know, if you're working on something, that's amazing, but don't take it to a distributor or a sales agent until it's finished. Because, I mean, for us, one of my things is we don't take anything until it's finished.
Yeah.
So unless it's a finished product, we don't take it. So big one for me, etiquette, communication etiquette.
That's good. I mean, for us sales agents, you know, I say, you know, if something's well developed, you know, I'm more than welcome to have a producer approach me with a project that they're putting together. But again, it's got to be well developed. It can't just be like, I got a script, I need money.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's, you know, but when it comes to the distributors, you know, although they might get involved in something a little more high profile that's star driven early on, for the most part, distributors are the end game. They're the exhibitors. You are there to actually release a finished film. You're not there to produce films for other people.
No, I mean, I'd love it that Hiveo maybe down the track could actually have a program for independent filmmakers to help them do that. But at this stage, you know, we just take finished stuff. The second one is how you package your film. And it doesn't matter whether it's a short film, a web series, your first feature, your second indie feature. It doesn't matter, but you really need to have it packaged up well. You know, I don't want 50 million links of here's my IMDb link and here's the trailer. Package it up. Give me a synopsis. Here's the film. Here's the trailer. Give me everything so it's really clean.
Yeah.
So, you know, and that sort of leads on to key art and trailers. And I know we're going to cover that a little bit later.
Something, well, we can talk about it now because this is something we talk about exhaustively, the importance of your marketing materials, your key art, basically being the poster, your trailer. These are the things that are going to make or break your film. And when you're looking at a platform with literally hundreds or thousands of titles, you know, when I'm scrolling, I'm looking at key art. Viewers key art. So talk about the importance of key art and trailer in terms of, like, you know, garnering eyeballs for your film.
So obviously, you know, what surprises me is you've got these filmmakers and they've given their blood, sweat and tears to create their project, you know, and you know that they have. And then you get to the end bit where it's all ready to go. And if the trailer's not cut in a way that makes you, you know, for me, I've been doing this so long that I look at a trailer and if the first 10 seconds don't grab me, I'm done. And that's how a user, a viewer reacts as well. If you can't get your viewer engaged within that first 10 to 15 seconds, they're probably not going to watch your movie either. So, you know, you've invested all this time and money into creating your project. Don't under budget. And I know you do a lot of stuff around budgeting and stuff, but leave yourself some budget to actually create a shit hot trailer that's going to catch people's attention, because that is literally your fishing hook of whether you're going to catch fish or not.
Yeah, I'm actually using that. I'm gonna do a whole section on cutting a shit hot trailer.
It's all yours. Enjoy. And key art is the same thing. You go to a grocery store and you see two identical products, right? Which one are you going to pick up? The one that looks like crap or the, you know, amazing, beautifully designed one? It's a no-brainer. So when people, like, you've got to, as a filmmaker, when you're going through this process, this is where you have to turn your filmmaking brain off and actually put yourself into your viewer's shoes and go, if I was a viewer, would I click, if I'm scrolling through any platform, would I click on my own key art and watch that film? Would I watch my trailer and go, shit, yeah, I actually want to sit down and dedicate the next hour and a half, 90 minutes to watch my film?
Yeah.
They're the hard questions you have to ask yourself.
I think you can also extrapolate that into the film itself too. You know, I do a webinar about, you know, the most common distribution misfires. And one of the things I touch on is the first 5 minutes of your film. First 5 minutes your film has to grab people, otherwise they're turning it off. Distributors typically only watch the first 5, maybe 10 minutes of your film. So if you got a comedy, people better be laughing in the first 5 minutes. If it's a horror film, be scared.
You better be scared in the first 5 minutes.
Exactly. So I think, you know, that's good advice, not just for the key art and trailer, but for the film itself too.
And what leads then on from that is your marketing. Now, obviously, you guys are filmmakers. You're not marketers, but we do.
To an extent, though. That's the tricky thing. That's the tricky thing about being a producer is you're not just being a filmmaker, you're being a business owner. And part of business is dealing with legal and dealing with marketing and dealing with all these other non-creative facets. So
actually, I'm glad you brought the legal up. You know, please make sure all your legals are done, all your music's being cleared, you know, all your release forms, everything. Make sure legally your film is ready to broadcast, because as a you know, a distributor, when I look at taking a film on, I'm like, have you got your cue sheets? Have you got this? Have you got that? Have you got this music licensed? The amount of times I've seen small independent filmmakers, you know, make some great stuff, but they've got a Britney Spears song in it. And I'm like, guys, did you get clearance on? No, we didn't. Guys, this is where...
That's probably a fairly common occurrence too.
Yeah, it's way more common than you would think.
Yeah.
So, you know, get your legals right. Put aside in your budget, you know, after you've made the film, everything that you need to actually get the film to market. Because, you know, if you haven't done your clearances, if you haven't got your legals right, if you haven't got your contracts right, if you haven't got a marketing plan or strategy, that's the other thing. Like, I'm a friend of mine, a really dear friend of mine, has worked on a documentary for the last 6 years, and it's finally at final cut. And he shot it over to me and said, can you have a look at it? And I'm like, okay, cool. So this needs to be changed. This needs to be changed, blah, blah, blah. The arc needs to be like this. The intro is not grabbing me enough. What's your marketing plan? What's your release strategy? What are you doing? And he just literally looked at me like doe-eyed going, I don't know.
Yeah, I think
I'm like,
it's a common misnomer that once it's done and it goes out, once a distributor or sales agent takes it, it just somehow, you know,
they will come.
magically finds its audience. But especially with small content, because you're trying to stand out amongst such a massive volume of other films, it really does require some grassroots, like boots on the ground, like old school marketing.
Totally. And it's never been so easy for us to become marketers, in a sense, because we have Instagram and Snapchat and, you know, Facebook and all these, you know, TikTok and all these platforms. And so one of the things that I actually, and we're launching a program around this over the coming months, where we're actually going to be working with like independent filmmakers and distributors to go, here's some tips on when you launch your film of the things that you can do. Because take a small independent film, for example. How many people would you have, cast, crew, all of that sort of stuff, if you put them all together, rounded them up in a room? You know, on a small indie feature, what do you reckon your numbers would be?
Yeah, on a small film, anywhere from 15 to 30.
Right. So you've got a small film, anywhere from 15 to 30, crew and cast and all that sort of stuff. Most of the time, each of those crew and cast will have some sort of social media account or presence, right?
Yeah.
And they have followers. So when you add up that grassroots level of followers, and you have all the people in your cast and crew part of your marketing strategy when you're pushing out, that can actually make a huge difference. And we have seen it time and time again on HiveYo. About a month ago, I had a little Russian film, short film, award winner, and it literally went out. We did some marketing and promotion around it, but the filmmaker herself really kind of got behind. She got her cast, she got her crew, she got her friends, she got her social network behind it. Within the first day of it going live on HiveYo, it did over 40,000 views.
Wow, that's great.
Right? This is the power of that grassroots, get your boots on kind of thing that you were just talking about.
And when on distribution platforms like HiveYo, does something have the potential to kind of go viral like that when a lot of traffic gravitates towards one title? Do the algorithms kick in and then it just starts trending and organically finding other eyeballs?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You know, and we're working to give our filmmakers more tools to be able to capitalize on that. But at the end of the day, this is your film. This is your project. You know, you're the captain of this ship, and really it's your responsibility to your cast, your crew, and your film and your career to make sure that you've planned all of this out. And, you know, the beauty about the day and age that we live in is that marketing and PR isn't traditional anymore. So, you know, once before you'd have to spend $3 or $4 grand for a publicist and, you know, God knows how much on marketing to get press and all that. Now you've got social media right at your fingertips. So actually, you know, and you can do boosted posts from $10. Like, you're not talking about massive budgets here, but be smart about it, because, you know, you and I have spoken about this a lot. It sort of seems like an independent filmmaker will get a sales agent or get distribution on a number of platforms, and it's like, oh, well, they will come. Yep. And I'm going to tell you they're not. It just doesn't work like that.
To compete with, you know? And like, look, I love watching movies. Like, I don't watch TV really. I watch movies, but I'm usually either watching DVDs because I'm old school, or I'm watching Tubi. And then when I'm not doing that, I'm watching short form clips on YouTube. You know, I don't like watching like Joe Rogan's podcast. I'm not going to sit there for 4 hours. I'm going to watch 10-minute chunks of it, you know? So there's just a lot to compete with, and it's all free. So that's why implementing your own grassroots marketing is so essential.
And it works. That it's not just essential, it actually works. And we see it time and time again. I see it, you know, over and over again. So, you know, invest in yourself and your film as much as, you know, put the same investment as getting it out as did into making it. And also, you know, for indie filmmakers, you've got to be looking at a multi-platform strategy. You know, you can't, different platforms bring different eyeballs and offer different things. So you need to be really smart about your strategy. You need to be smart about, if you're going to release it into festivals, how is that festival run going to work for you? And where's the time that you actually then start putting it up on distribution channels? Don't put it up too early because you might lose, you know. So really putting your marketing hat on and going, how am I as a business going to actually get some return on investment in my investment in my film?
Yeah, I like to say, I mean, putting even a very modest nominal amount of money in your budget for marketing is, in my opinion, as important as having money in for catering for your crew.
Absolutely. It's crucial. And you just, I know you see this all the time, but you just see so many people get to the end of their film and going, ta-da, it's done.
Right, yeah. My first film, that's exactly what I thought. I handed it over and I went home and I thought it was like, all right, I'm going to kick back and collect the checks. And unfortunately, it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. So you mentioned you were talking about this Russian short film that was very successful. Can you talk briefly about kind of short form content in terms of short films, web series, things of that nature? Because I think those are things that are types of content that are a lot more tangible for lower budget and independent filmmakers. And so a lot of people are choosing to focus their efforts there. I think it's kind of a tougher place to make money than a feature, but it's also a lot less expensive to produce short form.
And a lot less risky, you know?
How does that work from a distribution standpoint?
Look, we have over 500-600 short films on Hiveo at the moment. And I mean, I can tell you, I look at the analytics every day. I look at people's viewing habits every day. The way our lives are structured at the moment, our average viewing time is around 9 to 12 minutes anyway. And, you know, I guess pre-pandemic life, but, you know, if you were grabbing on your lunch break or waiting for the bus or, you know, doing something, it's very easy for people to just watch a quick video or a short film or whatever. So short form content does have a lot of positives, especially if you're going into this for the first time. You know, it can be a great way to test a concept for a feature that you'd like to make without getting yourself in too deep. And it's gaining more momentum. People are starting to watch short form content more and more. The other thing I really, look, you're not going to make shit tons of money creating short films, but they're a fantastic way to start learning your way around the business and
think it's great that there are actual avenues of distributing short form content now. I mean, back in the day, you weren't going to release short films on DVD unless it was like a big collection of them somehow. Whereas
Correct.
like now with platforms like Hiveo, there is an actual avenue, and Hiveo is by no means the only one. There's an actual avenue to get this stuff seen and monetized.
Absolutely. And look, web series are another great one. Simply because, I mean, one of our most successful channels on Hiveo is a web series. And, you know, they haven't actually made an episode since 2018, but it's still one of our highest performers. And again, it comes back to a combination of stuff. They knew their audience, it was nicely produced, but they also really capitalized on the groundswell marketing of creating a fan base. And that's where short form content is really, really great for independent filmmakers, because it can actually help you start to establish a fan base. Right. And that fan base, you know, grows with you. So as you grow and, you know, you're coming up to making your first feature, or that, you've already got an invested audience. And as I said, it's also another great way to test a concept for a feature.
On that web series you mentioned, like how many episodes did they do? How long on average was each episode? What was kind of the structure of it?
They did 8 seasons. There was about 70 odd episodes. Each episode, so like in their first couple of seasons, their episodes were between 8 and 9 minutes. And then sort of towards the end, they got up to about 14, 15 minutes.
Okay. A lot of content. I mean, 70 episodes over eight seasons. So yeah, that's like multiple feature films.
It is multiple feature films, but what they were able to do by creating the web series, because originally they pitched it as a pilot to a network. And the network was like, yeah, we like it, but, you know, and so they turn it into a web series. And then towards the end, it did get made into a pilot. It did sort of get picked up, like their big feature that they did kind of did the first season into one fully packed episode, and it was fabulous. And, you know, it got a lot of attention back here in Australia. And I mean, you know, since it's been going, it's had over 80 million views. It's not bad for a web series.
80 million? Is that just on Hiveo or total?
No, that's collectively.
Got it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Million.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, so don't think, you know, as a creative, and, you know, you want to be a filmmaker, I completely get that. But if you're starting out in the industry, especially with what's going on and how difficult it is to shoot in parts of the world right now, really think about a web series or a short form, you know, piece of content, because it's a great way to kind of get an audience, build an audience, test out a concept.
Yeah, that's great. Can you touch real quick on kind of how you see star power figuring into independent content? Is that something that you think is essential to drive significant traffic to a title on a platform like Hiveo?
I used to think it would be. Before I started Hiveo, I always thought, oh, you know, star power is star power. I can tell you it's not. Again, viewers have become really discerning over the last couple of years. And my philosophy has always been, if you put 300 people from around the world, different colors, different religions, different belief systems, you chuck them all in a cinema, you turn the lights off, you show a film. Film is one of the only mediums that is an equalizer for us as humans. And a good story is a good story. It doesn't matter how long it is, how it's been made, who's in it. A good story is a good story. And so I'm a huge believer that, especially with short form content, having a huge name in there will not guarantee you views.
Yeah, I would agree with that. For short form, it's much less attainable and whatnot. For features, I'm a big proponent of it because, you know, from a sales point of view, it's very tough to get distributors to look at things without star power. But I agree. From a viewer's perspective, it's less important. The frustrating thing, I think, both for people in my position and people in your position, is there's a big disconnect between distributors and viewers.
Massive.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. Of course, as a sales agent, you know that you're going to have better success selling a title if you've got a name in it.
Mm.
And, in the early days, I thought I'm going to have a lot more success getting advertisers and getting viewers if I've got titles with big names in it.
Right.
We've seen the opposite. But yeah, I mean, if you can do a feature, if you're looking at a feature and you can get a name in it, even that are doing a cameo or whatever, look, obviously it helps the process. Will it turn the end viewers? Maybe not so much, but will it help you get better distribution, get a great sales agent? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So as far as HiveVO, just to start wrapping things up, what are the parts of the world that you're seeing the most action in? I mean, where are your strongest territories throughout the world, and where do you see what other territories do you think HiveVO is going to start growing significantly into?
Southeast Asia for us has always been really big, probably because they're neighboring, and for us, we've always understood how to market to those people, so that's made things really easy for us. Europe and the US are our sort of new growing territories that we're starting to get a little bit of traction in. Hot territories that are growth areas for everyone is definitely Latin America. And South Africa. India's an interesting one. I mean, you've got over 1 billion people there, so obviously. But again, it comes down to marketing the right content to the right places. So if your film's very specific, look at your target demographics to start with. Where is the best place to put your marketing dollars? Where are you most likely to find what I call the low-hanging fruit, or the easy, accessible eyeballs?
Yeah. So another thing I wanted to ask you is, I think a lot of times when people finish their film and they get it placed with a sales agent takes it out and gets it placed with distributors and whatnot. And it doesn't fall entirely on the shoulders of the filmmaker. But in the indie world, especially in the lower budget world, a lot of filmmakers are doing their own self-distribution. And so in doing so, they're going to have to do all the legwork to go out and actually get their film placed. Now, I hear all the time, I made a great film and it's perfect for Netflix. But it's like, yeah, most people don't know that Netflix is looking for very specific types of content, and it's not a one size fits all. So I imagine most platforms are not one size fits all. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about kind of how to navigate and select the right platforms that are appropriate for a filmmaker and their film.
So amazing question. And another reason why I set up HiveVO, because some of the red tape on some of the platforms, some people don't realize that on going on certain platforms, you're literally giving away the rights and your IP to your film. So do your research, because we live in an age where multi-platform strategy is absolutely crucial, especially for indie filmmakers. So look at your research, look at the different platforms that are localized in different territories, different countries. Make sure that you read through the contracts, read through the terms and conditions. Just don't go throw your movie up there and then it's like a month or 12 months down the track, you can't take your film off or you can't get it back. And it's like, oh shit, what have I just done? Whereas, HiveVO, we set out to be very clear in our terms and conditions that you're always in control. If you want to delete your film, it's yours to delete. If you want to change your geo-blocking, it's yours. You retain the IP, you retain the copyright the entire time. Don't make that crucial mistake of going on a platform without checking the terms, the conditions of use. Look at the audience that you want to attract and make sure you're putting it on platforms that have that audience. So again, this is where the marketing and the business brain of a filmmaker needs to kick in. Do your research, do your homework, make sure that you're in control of your film at all times. That's my only advice.
Gotcha. That's great advice. how do you deal with localization in terms of, you know, you're putting a film out in non-English speaking parts of the world? How do you suggest independent filmmakers navigate that obstacle? Or, you know, on a platform like Havio, does it just go out as is and whoever's able to watch it watches it?
Look, there's a lot of non-English first, like mother tongue English speaking countries that obviously either watch a lot of Western content or are open to English speaking titles. You know, obviously common sense needs to prevail here. You know, another thing that doesn't seem to be like swimmingly popular in the film industry. Yeah. Common sense, guys. It's a good one to have. It'll serve you well. You know, obviously you wouldn't go and put your film, if it's only English speaking, into China without thinking about getting it dubbed. You wouldn't think if you were making it,
or at least subtitled, yeah.
Or at least subtitled, exactly. Subtitles are fine. People are used to watching subtitles. It's all good.
And they're cheap relative to dub.
Relatively cheap to do. You know, you wouldn't create an LGBT film and go to somewhere like Brunei or Indonesia. You know, so pick your audience, make sure that the distribution channels that you're starting with, and do a test. Like, you don't have to go all out. You know, you can start with trialing a couple of you know, local platforms or platforms that you can localize the experience on, and do some data research. You know, get some feedback, get friends that you've got around the world, check it out. What's it like? How's this working for you? So again, pop your business hats on. Think about who you want to be seeing your film, and make sure that the subject or the content of the film is appropriate for the country or the territory or the platform that you're placing it on.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. So anyway, I am going to wrap this up. I appreciate your time and contribution and your wise advice for all of our listeners very much. I really wish I was party crashing in Cannes with you right now.
Me too.
Hopefully soon we'll be off the computer and back in person at these markets. In the meantime, hivio.com, what's the best way to access the site? And it is free for users to go on.
It's totally free for users to go on. Hit us up, hivio.com. And
Hyvio.com.
That's it, hyvio.com.
And yeah, Odyssey Motion Pictures, my company, has its own channel on.
It does. Check it out.
Yeah. So if you want to see any of my films in the far reaches of the planet, Hyvio is a very convenient place to go check them out. Anyway, thank you so much. Always a pleasure, MJ. I will speak to you and hopefully see you soon.
Thanks for having me, and good luck, guys, on your filmmaking journey. I hope to see some stuff from you sometime soon.
All right. Good day. Hey, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you got a little bit of intel out of that dialogue. If you have any questions about anything you heard, feel free to email me, Marc, M-A-R-C, at indiefilminsandouts.com. Also check the website. We're always posting new blogs, and there's always information about our courses available at indiefilminsandouts.com. Till next time, Marc Clebanoff from Indie Film Ins and Outs. Have a good one.